Jake refused, and the conversation ended. Like so many conversations he had with Ethel, in disagreement. An hour later, Ethel called him to say that Lucien, the man who had given Jake the law business, had asked Jake to come to his house with some recent cases. Lucien came to the office or called once a month. He read cases and kept up to date with developments in the law. He had little else to do except drink his whiskey. He looked forward to Jake's monthly visits, when he could hear about the world he used to work in and give advice to the only man who now listened to him. The advice was, in fact, surprisingly good, and Jake could never understand how Lucien knew so much. Later on Thursday, therefore, Jake parked the Saab behind Lucien's old Porsche, walked up to the house, and handed the cases to him. Lucien offered whiskey, then wine, then beer, but Jake did not accept any. Carla did not like drinking, and Lucien knew it.
"Congratulations."
For what? Jake asked.
"For the Haley case."
Why are you congratulating me?
"I never had such a big case, and I had some big ones."
What do you mean by big?
"Lots of publicity. That's what makes a lawyer successful, Jake. If you're unknown, you don't eat. When people get in trouble, they call a lawyer. And they call someone they've heard of. You must sell yourself to the public. And you've got to try to get the trial moved to another county. Without enough blacks on the jury, you won't have a chance. This county is 26% black. Every other county in the district is at least 30% black. Van Buren County is 40%. That means more black jurors. If the trial is here, there's a risk of an all-white jury, and believe me, I've seen enough all-white juries in this county. At the very least, you need one black."
Jake felt that it was not going to be easy to get Judge Noose to move the trial, and said so to Lucien.
"That's not a problem," he replied. "The main thing is to ask. Then, when they find that poor man guilty, you can claim he did not have a fair trial because the judge refused to move."
So you don't feel too optimistic about Carl Lee's chances? Lucien thought for a moment.
"Not really. It will be difficult."
Why?
"Looks like it was planned, right?"
Yes.
"I'm sure you'll say he was insane."
I don't know.
"You must," said Lucien. "There is no other possible defense. You can't say it was an accident. You can't say he shot those two boys with a machine gun in self-defense, can you?"
No.
"You won't tell the jury he was at home with his family?"
Of course not.
"Then what other defense do you have? You must say he was crazy."
But Lucien, he was not insane. And there's no way I can find a psychiatrist who will say he was. He planned it, every detail. Lucien smiled and took a drink.
"That's why you're in trouble, my boy. But you're still lucky to have the case."
You really think so? Asked Jake.
"I'm serious. It's a lawyer's dream. Win it and you're famous. It could make you rich."
I'll need your help.
"You've got it. I need something to do."
The next day, Friday, Lester came into Jake's office and told him the family could only raise $900 to pay for Carl Lee's defense. All of the banks in town had refused to lend money. Wonderful, thought Jake. My family and my secretary are getting threatening phone calls. My best friend tells me I can't win the case, and now I'm only going to get $900 for a case which is going to stop me doing any other work for weeks. Wonderful. Chapter 4. The Klan. Before Carl Lee Haley could go on trial, he had to go in front of a jury of citizens of Ford County. It was their job to decide if the two murders had happened and if it was reasonable for Carl Lee to stand trial. This was the first opportunity for Rufus Buckley to get some of the publicity he wanted so much. The grand jury made its decision. There was a case against Carl Lee, and he would have to stand trial for murder. It was then Rufus Buckley's turn to stand on the front steps of the courthouse in the middle of a crowd of reporters and cameramen. Buckley had copies of the legal documents with Carl Lee's name on. He waved these in front of the cameras. He talked like a priest in church, saying how terrible it was for people to take the law into their own hands. He praised the jury for the decision they had made. He accused Carl Lee Haley of being a lawless man and said he wanted the trial to happen soon. He guaranteed he would prove that Carl Lee Haley was guilty of murder. He guaranteed Carl Lee Haley would die on the electric chair. He was rude, unpleasant, self-important. He was himself. A few of the reporters left, but he did not stop talking. He told those who remained about his skill as a lawyer and his success as a prosecutor. More reporters left. More cameras were turned off. He praised Judge Noose for his wisdom and fairness. He praised the intelligence and good judgment of Ford County jurors. When he finished speaking, there were no reporters left. They had grown tired of him. Stump Sisson was the Ku Klux Klan's leader in Mississippi. He had called the meeting at a small hut deep in the forest in Nettles County, 230 miles south of Ford County. There were no special clothes or speeches. The small group of Klansmen discussed the events in Ford County with Freddie Cobb, brother of Billy Ray. Freddie had called a friend who had contacted Stump to arrange the meeting.
"When's the nigger's trial?" "I'm not sure," Cobb said. "I think it'll probably be later in summer."
He was most worried, he said, by all the talk about the nigger saying he was insane and going free. It wasn't right. The nigger killed his brother in cold blood, planned the shooting. What could the Klan do about it? Cobb complained that the niggers had so much protection these days that no one could do anything against them.
"Hell, white people ain't got a chance except for the Klan. Who else will march and stand up for white people? All the laws work to help the niggers. That's why we called the Klan." "What about your brother? Did he rape her?" "We're not sure. Probably not. Willard, the other one, said he did it, but Billy Ray never did. He always had plenty of women. Why would he rape a little nigger girl? And if he did, what's the big problem?" "Who's the nigger's lawyer?" "Briggins, a local boy in Clanton. Young, but pretty good. He told some reporters the nigger would say he was insane and would go free." Who's the judge?
I don't know yet. Sisson and the clan members listened carefully to this mindless farmer. They liked his complaints about the government, but they had also read the papers and watched TV, and they knew his brother had received justice. But at the hands of a nigger. It was unthinkable. The case could be useful to them. With the trial several months away, there was time to plan. They could march during the day around the courthouse in their clan uniform of tall hats and masks. The press would love it. Hate them, but love the arguments, the anger. And at night, they could frighten people with their burning crosses and threatening phone calls. There would also be violence. They knew what the sight of the clan did to crowds of angry niggers. Ford County could be their playground for search and destroy, hit and run. They had time to organize and call in people from other states. The Haley case could be used to bring together all the Southern whites who still refused to accept the rights of blacks to a place in society.
Mr. Cobb, can you get us the names and addresses of the nigger, his family, his lawyer, the judge, and the jurors? Asked Sisson.
Cobb thought about this.
Everybody except the jurors. They ain't been chosen yet. What are you thinking? We're not sure, but the clan will most likely get involved. We need to remind people we're still here, and this could be a good opportunity.
Can I help? Cobb asked.
Sure, but you'd need to be a member.
We ain't got any clan up in Clanton. It stopped meeting a long time ago. My grandfather used to be a member.
You mean the grandfather of this man was a Klansman?
Yes, Cobb answered proudly.
Well, then we must get involved.
Buckley's 4 o'clock press conference did not come on the early evening news. Jake laughed when first the national TV channels, and then Memphis, then Jackson, then Ripolo, ended their broadcasts with no news about the Haley trial and no pictures of Buckley on the screen. At 10, Jake and his wife Carla lay in the dark on the sofa, waiting for the news. Finally, there was Buckley, on the front steps, waving papers and shouting, while the reporter explained that this was Rufus Buckley, the man who would prosecute Carl Lee Haley. The camera was pointed at Buckley for a few seconds, and then the camera moved around the town square to give a wonderful view of the center of Clanton. It finally came back to the reporter for 2 sentences about a trial in late summer.
Buckley's really horrible,
Carla said, and turned off the sound of the TV.
You know what I dislike most about your murder trials?
She kicked the cushions off the sofa with her thin, brown, almost perfect legs.
The blood? The pain?
No.
She let her shoulder-length hair fall around her as she fell back on the sofa.
The loss of life?
No.
She was wearing one of his old shirts. She began to play with the buttons.
The horrible possibility of an innocent man facing the electric chair?
No.
She unbuttoned the shirt. The blue television screen was the only light in the room. It was enough for Jake to see her almost perfect arms reach out for him.
The emotion? The desire?
That's more like it,
she said, and slid an almost perfect brown leg up to the back of the sofa, where it gently came to rest. They moved closer to each other, and she turned off the TV. The room was warm and dark. Chapter 5. Lawyers. Harry Rex Vonner was enormously fat. He was a lawyer who specialized in cases where marriages had broken down nastily. He could be just as nasty as his cases, and his services were in great demand. He could get you the children, the house, the farm, the dog, everything. One wealthy farmer sent him a check each month so that the woman he was married to, his fourth wife, couldn't hire him for herself. Harry Rex sent his criminal cases to Jake, and Jake sent his nasty marriage problem cases to Harry Rex. They were friends, and they disliked other lawyers, especially Rufus Buckley. On Tuesday morning, Harry Rex came slowly up the stairs to Jake's office. The stairway shook as he climbed to the first floor. He was breathing heavily as he entered the big room. "Morning, Harry Rex."
"Why don't you get a downstairs office?"
he demanded between breaths. "You need the exercise. If it weren't for those stairs, your weight would be over 300 pounds.
"Thanks. I just came from the courtroom. Noose wants you there at 10:30 if possible. Wants to talk about Haley with you and Buckley. Agree the trial date. He asked me to tell you."
"Good. I'll be there."
"You'll find Buckley there, too. You should see him. He's telling everyone about his big TV appearance last night. But no one wants to talk about it. He's like a child begging for attention."
"Be nice to him. He may be your next governor."
"Not if he loses the Haley case. And he's going to lose Haley, Jake. We'll pick a good jury, 12 good and faithful citizens. Then we'll buy them."
"I didn't hear that."
"It works every time."
A few minutes after 10:30, Jake entered the judge's office behind the courtroom and coolly shook hands with Buckley and the other lawyers. They had been waiting for him. Noose waved him toward a seat and sat behind the desk.
"Jake, this will take just a few minutes. I would like to see Carl Lee Haley in the morning at 9. Any problems with that?"
"No, that'll be fine," replied Jake.
"Okay, now let's discuss a trial date for Mr. Haley. As you know, the next term for the court here is in late August, and I'm sure we'll be just as busy then. Because of the nature of this case, and honestly, because of the publicity, I think it would be best if we had a trial as soon as is practical." "The sooner the better," said Buckley. "Jake, how long will you need to prepare for trial?"
60 days.
60 days? Buckley repeated. "Why so long?"
Jake ignored him. He explained to the judge that they would be using an insanity defense and would need Carl Lee to be examined by a psychiatrist, and that all this would take time. Buckley kept shouting that it was unnecessary.
"Relax, Rufus," Jake said calmly. "The cameras will be here in 60 days, even 90 days. They won't forget about you. You can give interviews, hold press conferences, everything. Don't worry so much. You'll get your chance."
Buckley's face went red. He took 3 steps in Jake's direction.
"Gentlemen, please," Noose interrupted. "This is going to be a long, emotional case. I expect you to act like professionals. Now, my diary is very full.